Hello everybody. Welcome to this next lecture on SOC design. So in this lecture, we are going to talk about how the SOC is typically designed. Okay. So up till now, we have understood SOC is an integrated circuit designed by stitching together multiple standalone systems or designs to provide functionality of a full application on a single chip. Okay, so when we talk about the strategies or the models or the way the SOC design flow has to be followed or any system on chip is designed, there are three main approaches which are used. The first one is the ASIC based design, the next is IP based design, and the last is the platform based design. So when we are going to design a system which is new, an application which is new, in which all the modules which are required to build the complete system, they are actually to be built from the scratch. A complete new design is to be built or developed. Then it is ASIC based design. Whereas both IP based and platform based, they work on the this you can say the policy of or so when we talk about IP based design or the platform based design, both uh, they work on the philosophy of design reuse. Typically, the state of art integrated systems are not designed from the scratch, and the system reuse it helps enhance the design productivity. So an SoC, though it may be built from microprocessor, which can be a DSP, an ASIC, any programmable logic along with that, memory, internal and external, other pre-designed as well as pre-verified codes along with the hardware accelerator. These codes may be designed at a different levels of hardware abstraction and need to be highly integrated with the complete system, the software as well as the other hardware modules, and for which we require a very sophisticated, optimized CAD design environment. This may be surely aided by the design hierarchy, which allows step-by-step speed up of the design and partitioning of the complete system and accomplishing them module by module in the terms of hardware units. So definitely, adopting the reuse-based design is the key to meet the economics of SOC design. So when I say economics, that is in the terms of cost, time, and the power requirements, as well as the efforts of the team which is behind to design your SOC. So definitely that rules out this approach. The first one, ASIC-based design. So that is not a preferred one because design reuse is uh, one major, you can say, the philosophy which is underlying the design flow or the success of the design flow of SOC. Otherwise, designing an SOC is not a very feasible idea if we start from the scratch for every new application we are going to design. So basically, to implement that, designing of the hardware, partitioning is the keyword to reduce the design complexity. And further, each of this partitioned block may be chosen as an existing, predefined, and a pre-verified code. So it may be a requirement that some module is not already existing or the reusable form of that module is not available or the it is not portable to your design. So that may require building one or two modules or maybe a limited number of modules to be built from the scratch. So ASIC based design is not encouraged in the present environment for the SOC design. So that leaves us to the two next approaches, that is IP based as well as the platform-based design. Okay. So when I say IP is very synonymous to when I say macro or a core or a block. Okay. And these IP blocks, they actually consist of generally they consist of one or more processor cores and hardware accelerators or GPUs, DSPs, etc. They can be provided as an RTL code at the gate level netlist, or they can be a complete fully implemented macro. Now that should give you some idea of what is the difference between an IP and a macro. Macro generally refers to a fully implemented form, okay? So where it is ready to use and only the interfacing is required, whereas IP can be made available for reusability at different levels of abstraction, okay? So definitely SOC offers us the flexibility via use of these codes and the software that can be used to incorporate any changes which are required in our newer design. So IP based approach is basically reusing the components. And when I talk about IP cores, I already told you it can be RTL or netlist or a fully implemented design. But apart from that, these IP cores, they can be classified into the three main uh, categories. And these are provided by third party vendors. That is the vendors which are neither designing the assets, not which are building, nor which are building, neither into assembling and neither into manufacturing. Okay. So the macros or the IPs which are being used, they have to be reusable. They have to be portable to different technologies, to a different environment, so that they can be reused. That in itself is another challenge of SOC. Okay, that is building an IP or a module which can be reused, which can be updated with the different systems where it is called for. That is another challenge that we'll talk about later. So coming back to our this current discussion. So IP cores, they can be classified into three types. It can be hard IP core, it can be a soft IP core, and it can be a firm IP core. When I say hard IPs, hard IP core is nothing but a hard layout which is using the physical design libraries. And it is quite simple and easy because there is very little to work or improvise in that case. Okay, so it is completely technology dependent. But since we have very little to do, it means it lacks flexibility also. So it can be directly ported and it can be only used if our technology it is compatible and it can be interfaced. So it is very close to hard IP cores. I can compare it to a macro. Then we come to is soft IP cores. So when I say soft IP cores, generally they are VHDL or Verilog codes. That is any hardware design language code which is there. So basically they are at the RTL level. So they are very flexible, they are reconfigurable, and they need to be synthesized. So any changes at the RTL code level, they can be incorporated and they need to be, so they are pre-designed, but they need to be verified. Whereas hard IP cores, they are both pre-designed and pre-verified. Then we come to us firm cores. When I say firm cores, so they actually, it is a midway between the soft IP core and the hard IP core. So it gives me the balance between the flexibility of soft IPs and the optimization or the performance of the hard IP cores. Okay. So in this, the netlist they are provided, which are specific to physical libraries, and it is normally at the level of the netlist or at the synthesis level. So it is pre-verified in its functionality. It is pre-designed definitely. Okay. So these are the three categories of your IP cores. So IP core, it is a pre-designed and a pre-verified component which can be incorporated in the new design of your SoC as a basic building block. Okay. So irrespective of whether it is a foundation IP, as a cell library or as a gate array, or a standard IP as a, let's say, a video encoder or a data compressor, etc. Or it can be an IP as a processor, that is a MIPS based processor or ARM based processor. So the only requirement we have from that is it should be deliverable and it should be able to be independently be used as a component and be updated and interfaced with the new design environment. Okay, so that is the major requirement. So it should be having the ability to be reused. Okay, that can be technologically constrained, but then it should be able to be interfaced and be portable to be used on the similar or the compatible technologies. So this is all about your IPs. So I hope you got an idea of what is an intellectual property based approach. So I am just going to summarize it. So it means that first we are going to partition our SOC design into different modules. Now instead of building this each module on our own, we are taking them from the existing ones. For example, I want to build a computing system. Okay, 64-bit computing system I want to build. So for that I may require multiplexers. I need to use A to D converters. I need to use decoders and coders. So already we know that these multiplexers, demultiplexers, they are existing and they are the normal components which are being widely used in all the systems which are digital systems. So instead of putting our team effort into building a new design from the scratch, what we can do is we can port the RTL code of multiplexer and it is already verified to work as a mux. It is already designed. So I just need to, so if it is technologically compatible with my design, great. Otherwise, I can just port the RTL code. If it is technologically compatible, I can use the gate level netlist. And if it is a completely compatible with same number of inputs, same outputs, same technological library, then I can make the entire unit to be used as such. Okay, so that is what IP core is. Okay, so next is your platform based approach. But before that, these are the few examples of the popularly used IPs. So the processor level, your ARM 7, 9, 10, all these, they are used as the IP cores. Then your ASIPs, that is application specific processors. So these are the series of, let's say, Turbo, Viterbi code, Reach, Solomon. So these are basically what encoders we know. Then for mixed signal processing, it is ADCs, DACs, codecs, PLLs, op-amps, so all this. Then for our input output modules, your PCI, that is your bus interface, USB, your 1394. So these are all the communication platforms which are used. And then there are miscellaneous ones as UARTs, DRAM controllers, timers, interrupt controller, and so on. So these are just examples of what IP cores are popularly used. Now coming to the next, that is platform-based design. So when I say platform-based design, now this is a relatively, we can say, evolved form of SOC design. So earlier, the SOC design, it was based on saving the time to market and it was based on IP using making use of the pre-designed IP cores. Okay. So over the time, this approach it evolved to platform-based design. So when I say platform-based design, it means it is emphasizing or it is based on the philosophy of reusing the architecture. Okay, so there is a difference in the approach in what we are reusing. Definitely, IP and platform both are making use of the concept of reuse. But in case of the platform based, the architecture is exploited instead, and in case of the your IP based, what is there is your components, they are exploited for reuse. Okay. So for example, a fully defined bus architecture and the collection of IP blocks that can be serving associated IP blocks, I should say, that can be serving as a platform based approach. Now that is a broader level of design reuse where I can port the complete architecture. That is, for example, your Amba bus architecture. So that should be example of your platform based approach. Okay. So it is a design methodology which evolved and is a relatively uh, the recent concept in the design of SOC, which started or which supported the concept of plug and play devices. Okay. So because the platform was same for two devices, I could bring in and I can directly just see the interface. And if their interface is compatible, I can use that device with my system. So it was as simple as that. So it offers a trade-off between the reusability, cost, as well as the performance optimization. So just to go through the brief characteristics of this technology or this strategy, it starts with architecting a processing platform for a given vertical application space. So when I say this, it means that the architecture on which my system is being built or my application is being growing in the vertical upwards direction, that framework is being reused. Okay. So it enables rapid creation and verification, definitely. And those IP codes, they can vary on that, which are compatible with that architecture, they can be roped in or they can be used. So it uses a predictable and a pre-verified firm and hard blocks. Okay. So my entire structure or the architecture, it is my framework is so along with the components. Now my backbone structure is also verified. So I know where to place what and what is going to be used, what network communication is going to be used, what miscellaneous units are required. So I eases out the design process of SOC. So definitely it reduces the overall time to market, it shortens the verification time, the productivity it increases through the efficient use, design reuse. And next is it allows derivative designs. So for that, I would like to take one example. So just a minute for that. So I'll just, okay. Hmm. So I will use this. For example, this is my bus architecture and I have certain units associated with it. Okay. So these are the different blocks. They may be input output. So that may be a memory controller, a manager system, management unit or whatever. So that may be a DMA controller. So this is one example. So let's say I have A, B, and C as the three units which are associated with this bus architecture. So this is my typical bus whose speed I am knowing. I know peripherals are going to work on that, which speed, what speeds are allowed. So I am what interface is required. So we are clear on that. So let's say we have ported this platform in an architecture, in our design. So the neo design, suppose I need another unit to process my input output. So in that case, I definitely have ported the existing structure, which is comprising of your basic A, B, C blocks which were already there. But in my ported platform, I have the provision to add another block, or for that matter, I can remove this block also. So this is called the derivative design. So within that framework, without actually changing the complete functionality, I can add certain unit and I can remove a particular unit. So that is allowed. So these are called the derivative designs. So the derivative designs with added functionality, they are allowed in the platform-based design. And further, they allow the user to focus on the part that is different in their design. So what does this mean? So it means, suppose I am going to build a system. Let's say a computational unit I want to design. I want to design a complete uh, system which is going to take any 64-bit inputs and process the data. Okay. Now suppose I want to extend that computing capabilities from the 64 to 128. So that 128 may require two units of that 64-bit. Let's say I'm talking about floating point only. Okay. So in that case, what I can do is I just have to see that what additional I require. I need not worry about designing the complete system from the this scratch. Um, I should not say scratch. It means I just need not imagine the complete system and start quoting the IP blocks. Okay, I need a multiplexer, I need a adder, I need a summer, I need a subtractor. So I need not do that. What I can just try and focus is, okay, I already have a 64-bit floating unit. So for interfacing it or making it 128, what all additional I need? So I can just rope in that. Okay. So that is how it goes about. So that allows the designer or the complete team to focus on what is new or different, or what is the innovative, or what is additional which is required in their design. So their focus to build the system on chip is just on that particular part. Okay. So that is platform based design. So with this, we end another lecture on SOC. In the next lecture, we'll actually start with your ASIC design in the different tools which are available, and the market commercial tools which are available for designing of these SOC systems at different stages. Okay, because multiple tools they are required. So what all tools are actually commercially being used? So we'll just go through them and we'll see the typical ASIC design flow. That is, if a new system has to be designed from the scratch, then how does the front end and the back end flow go about? So thank you everybody.